After the banquet ended, the crystal chandelier was still lit, and no one had cleaned up the colorful ribbons scattered on the ground. Su Wanqing leaned back in her chair at the main table, twirling a wine glass between her fingers, leaving a dark red streak on the rim. She glanced up at Vice President Zhao Feng, who stood 3 meters away, and a smirk played on her lips. I gave all of my husband's team's 73 million yuan year-end bonus to Xiao Cheng. Zhou Huai didn't throw a tantrum, did he? Zhao Feng's face was ashen, and his voice was extremely low. The HR department just reported that as soon as the gentleman left, all 17 senior executives resigned. Su Wanqing scoffed, slamming the bottom of her glass on the table. With that meal ticket of his, where can he go after leaving the company? Before the words were finished, the heavy, carved wooden door of the banquet hall was slowly pushed open from the outside. 3 days ago, Zhou Huai was reconciling accounts in the company's finance department when he discovered an unusual outflow of 73 million yuan. The recipient of the payment was not the technology center's escrow account, but a cultural communication company that had been registered for less than 3 months. The legal representative's surname was Cheng, and his name was Cheng Yu. He was a male assistant that Su Wanqing had just hired last month. Zhou Huai pointed to the screen and asked the CFO, "This money is marked as a year-end special incentive for the Yunding project. Who approved it?" The CFO avoided his eyes and only said, "It was signed by President Su, who said it was a strategic advance. My team worked themselves to death for a year, and all the money went into one assistant's pocket." Zhou Huai's voice wasn't loud, but the CFO took a half step back. Everyone in the company knew that Su Wanqing was the president, and Zhou Huai was her husband and the true person in charge of the Yunding project. But in recent years, whenever Su Wanqing mentioned Zhou Huai, all she could say was, "He lives off me." Zhou Huai did not lose his temper on the spot. He made a copy of the transaction record, took a photo of it, and pushed the original back, according to the procedure. "This payment requires my signature as the project manager." President Su said, "No need." Zhou Huai glanced at the CFO for 3 seconds, then turned and left. That afternoon, he went to the law firm. After hearing the whole story, his old classmate, Lawyer Yang, adjusted his glasses and said, "If this money didn't end up in the team's account, but was instead embezzled by an individual, it might involve misappropriation of funds. But you're currently missing complete evidence of where the funds ended up. Give me 3 days." Zhou Huai said. Back home, Su Wanqing was on the balcony making a phone call, her voice soft and sweet, a tone Zhou Huai hadn't heard in many years. "Xiao Cheng likes that Porsche? Buy it. Young people can handle the situation." Zhou Huai stood in the entryway without changing his shoes. He glanced at the model couple photo on the living room wall, then went straight into the study and opened the bottom shelf of the safe. There lay a blue-covered document with the title Invention Patent Certificate printed on the cover, the core algorithm of the Yunding Intelligent Scheduling System. Patentee, Zhou Huai. The company has been authorized to use it for 5 years. Initially, to help the Su family prepare their IPO financial statements. He signed a standard license, not selling ownership. He took the certificate out, put it back in, and closed the cabinet door. The moment the cabinet door closed, his phone rang. It was a message from Zhao Feng, President Zhou. "The seating chart for the annual meeting has been adjusted. You've been assigned to the table near the door." Zhou Huai replied with a single word, "Okay." Then he sent an encrypted email to the 17 core members of the technology department. "Someone is trying to take our team's bonuses recently. Be careful and send me screenshots of the transaction records." By the time I finished sending the email, it was already dark outside. He sat in the dark, turned on his computer, and logged into an email account he hadn't used in a long time. In his inbox lay an email from 3 months ago, sent by Wang Chongshan, the company's largest shareholder and Su Wanqing's father. The email contained only one sentence. "Xiao Zhou, the Su family has wronged you. Think it over and call me." Zhou Huai did not reply. He shut down his computer, knowing that the real battleground wasn't at home, but at the annual meeting 3 days later. 2 days ago, Su Wanqing took Cheng Yu to inspect the technology center. Cheng Yu, 25 years old, wore an overly tailored suit and followed half a step behind Su Wanqing. He smiled at everyone, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He carried a tablet and pointed at everything he saw. "President Zhou, your testing cycle is too long. Chung Yu stopped in front of the main control screen of the Yunding project. President Su's idea is to merge the project into the Strategic Coordination Department after the new year for unified management. The Strategic Coordination Department is a newly established department by Chung Yu, and it currently has only 3 people. Zhou Huai stood in front of the mainframe, screwdriver still in his hand. The clouding system is scheduled to be delivered to the Municipal Investment and Development Bureau for final acceptance next month. If we move the architecture now, who will handle the client side? Me? Chung Yu smiled, revealing a set of white teeth. President Su said that I will be fully in charge from now on. There were more than 20 people in the technology center, but no one answered the call. Su Wanqing frowned and looked at Zhou Huai. What's your attitude? Xiao Cheng is a returnee from overseas and understands international management. Don't always lead your team in such a closed-off way. The team's closed development is for confidentiality. Zhou Huai put down the screwdriver. Only 17 people have A-level access to the core code of Yunding. The authority issue will be reviewed again after the new year. Su Wanqing turned and walked out, leaving behind a sentence. Do your best at the annual meeting. Don't let everyone think that you, as the boss, are competing with young people. Chung Yu turned around and winked at Zhou Huai. That afternoon, Chung Yu sent an email to all employees titled Preliminary Notice regarding the optimization of the technical team's incentive structure. In the body of the email, the 73 million renminbi performance bonus pool that originally belonged to the Yunding team was reassigned to the Special Talent Fund of the Strategic Coordination Department. The technology center was in an uproar. Zhou Huai took a screenshot of the email and forwarded it to Lawyer Yang. In the evening, Zhou Huai met with 3 core employees at the tea room downstairs. Li Lan, the HR director, was 40 years old and had worked with Zhou Huai for 8 years. Old Zheng, the architect, was 52 years old and a company veteran. The third was product manager Xiao Feng. The tea was brewed 3 times, but no one spoke first. Finally, Li Lan put down her cup. President Zhou, we'll do whatever you say, but you have to give us a straight answer. Does this company have no rules? Zhou Huai poured everyone a cup of tea. There are rules, but some people don't want to follow them. Before the annual meeting, don't cause trouble. Back up your client records, project milestones, and patent files as needed. Old Zheng raised an eyelid. You're leaving? I want them to personally drive this road to its dead end. Zhou Huai said. After the tea party ended, Zhou Huai received a phone call in the parking lot. It was Wang Chongshan on the other end. His voice aged but steady. Xiao Zhou, I heard Wanqing is going to give Yunding's bonus to Xiao Cheng. Uncle Wang, the evidence is all here. Zhou Huai looked at the neon lights outside the car window. You'd better be able to come to the annual meeting. I've been cleaning up her messes for half my life, but I can't do it this time. Wang Chongshan sighed. Take care of yourself. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Huai opened WeChat and sent the same private message to the other 14 executives. Don't drink alcohol at the annual meeting. Stay sober. All 17 people, without exception, replied instantly. Understood. Zhou Huai put his phone in his pocket and glanced up at the top floor of the company building. Su Wanqing's office light was still on, and 2 shadows were cast on the curtains. He opened the car door and got in. On the eve of the annual meeting, the administration department released the final seating chart. Zhou Huai's name was moved from the second seat at the main table in previous years to the table at the far end of the banquet hall, where he sat with a new intern and the cleaning supervisor. Chung Yu sat at the main table, right next to Su Wanqing, with his name tag reading Director of Strategic Coordination Department. Li Lan stormed into Zhou Huai's office with the seating chart in hand, her hands trembling with anger. President Zhou, they're publicly humiliating you. The Yunding project was something you led us through over 400 days of hard work, and now they won't even let us sit at the head table? Zhou Huai took the seating chart, glanced at it, and folded it up. It's all the same no matter where I sit. The food is cold, and I won't warm it up anywhere. But the brothers below are disheartened. It's good to feel heartbroken. Zhou Huai opened the drawer, took out a brown paper bag containing a stack of neatly organized documents. Only when you feel heartbroken do you know what clothes to wear when you go out. Li Lan was taken aback. Zhou Huai pushed the paper bag over. Inside are Chung Yu's unusual expense reports from the past 3 months, as well as suspicious points regarding his academic credentials. Have HR go through the motions tomorrow and send it to my email, copying the board of directors. The board of directors? Chairman Wang is abroad. He'll be back tomorrow, Zhou Huai said. Lilan took the paper bag, her fingers tightening. You already. Go ahead and get busy. Zhou Huai interrupted her. Late at night, Zhou Huai was the only one left in the office. He took the patent certificate from the safe, then opened his laptop, logged onto the State Intellectual Property Office's website, and checked the patent's legal status. Valid. Patentee, Zhou Huai. Licensing method, ordinary license. Licensee, Suzhou Science Technology Group Company, Ltd. He took a screenshot and closed the web page. Then, he opened an encrypted chat group with only 17 members. Named Yunding. He sent a message. Tomorrow is the annual meeting. After the banquet. Stay behind. I'll take you all home. 1 minute later. 17 received messages were neatly arranged on the screen. Zhou Huai closed his laptop, got up, and walked to the window. Below, the city lights twinkled. He had dedicated 7 years to this building, rising from programmer to vice president of technology. And then, for Su Wanqing, he stepped down to work on the front lines of the project. He had always thought marriage was a partnership. Now he realized that Su Wanqing treated him like an employee, but without paying him a salary. My phone vibrated. Su Wanqing sent a voice message. Her tone perfunctory. Don't be late for the annual meeting tomorrow. Dress formally. Don't let Xiao Cheng think that we people in the technical department have no class. Zhou Huai did not reply. He placed his phone face down on the table and turned off the main light. In the darkness, only the computer power button glowed with a faint green light, like some kind of signal poised to be released. On the night of the annual meeting, the banquet hall was resplendent with gold and silver. Su Wanqing, dressed in a champagne-colored gown, stood arm in arm with Cheng Yu by the registration table, looking every bit like the hostess and hostess. The guests were all executives from the partner companies, and no one dared to ask, why isn't President Zhou at the head table? Zhou Huai, wearing his old suit, sat at the table by the door, quietly drinking tea. After several rounds of drinks, Su Wanqing took the stage to deliver a speech. She first reviewed the company's glory of the previous year, then changed the subject. This year, we will vigorously promote a talent rejuvenation strategy and break away from seniority-based promotion. The company has decided to allocate all of the annual performance incentives for the Yunding project, totaling 73 million yuan, to the Strategic Coordination Department, to be distributed under the overall coordination of Director Cheng Yu. In recognition of the contributions of emerging talents to the company, the entire room fell silent for a second. Then, Cheng Yu led the applause. Several unsuspecting business partners at the main table followed suit. At the table by the door, Old Zheng's chopsticks snapped with a crack. Xiaofeng's face flushed red, and he abruptly stood up, only to be stopped by Zhou Huai's shoulder. President Zhou? Xiaofeng's voice trembled. Sit down, Zhou Huai said in a very low voice. Eat. That's our money. We've endured over 400 days of hardship. That's, I said. Let's eat. Zhou Huai remained expressionless, but his fingers pressed firmly on Xiaofeng's shoulder, his strength as steady as a mountain. At the main table, Cheng Yu, holding a wine glass, strolled over to the table near the door. Looking down at the group, he smiled broadly. Thank you to President Zhou's team for their past contributions. However, technology must serve strategy. From now on, I will be in charge of overseeing the Clouding project. If you have any opinions, please follow the proper procedures. No one spoke. Cheng Yu added insult to injury. By the way, Mr. Zhou, is that suit you're wearing 3 years ago? Don't worry about the year-end bonus. President Su was just worried about you being overworked and wanted to ease your mind. Su Wanqing watched from a short distance away, a smile on her lips, and did not stop them. Zhou Huai slowly stood up. He was half a head taller than Cheng Yu. He didn't say anything, but simply picked up his teacup and steadily poured the remaining tea into the wine glass in front of Cheng Yu. The tea mixed with red wine rippled with a dirty purple hue. What are you doing? Cheng Yu took a half step back. I salute you, Zhou Huai said. I salute your youth and your innovative spirit. He put the teacup on the table and turned to walk towards the banquet hall entrance. Su Wanqing frowned and shouted, Zhou Huai, you stop right there. Zhou Huai didn't turn around. He just waved his hand. You guys take your time eating. I settled the bill 7 years ago. He pushed open the banquet hall door and walked out. Almost at the same second, Lao Zheng and Xiao Feng at the table near the door, along with the technical staff at two other tables. All had their phones vibrate. This was the second group message from Zhou Huai. Your resignation letter is ready and in your email. Sign it and come with me. Not one of the 17 people hesitated. They all stood up, left their seats, and silently walked towards the door. The music was still playing in the banquet hall, and no one noticed that the company's technological backbone was being hollowed out little by little. At 10 p.m., all the guests had left. The waiters started clearing the tables, leaving the floor covered with flattened ribbons and cigarette butts. Su Wanqing leaned against the main table. Cheng Yu was massaging her shoulders, making witty remarks. Zhao Feng stood 3 meters away, holding a freshly printed document in his hand, his knuckles white. Su Wanqing looked up at him and asked lazily, "Mr. Zhao, is there something you need?" Zhao Feng opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Cheng Yu smiled and said, "President Zhao, just say what you want to say." President Su is in a good mood today. Zhao Feng took a deep breath and took half a step forward. President Su. The HR department just received a wave of resignation applications. Job hopping at the end of the year is normal, Su Wanqing said, swirling her wine glass. We'll let a few people go to lower-level positions and then recruit new ones. Not the lower-level staff, Zhao Feng said, his voice barely audible. They were all 17 senior executives with A-level authority in the Yunding project. As soon as Mr. referring to a certain person left, they all resigned. The light from the crystal chandelier flickered across Su Wanqing's face. She paused for half a second, then scoffed and slammed the bottom of her glass on the table. With that meal ticket of his, where can he go after leaving the company? Zhou Huai has been throwing tantrums at me for 7 years, and every time he's come back obediently. Those executives are just following his lead, trying to scare whoever they're after. Cheng Yu laughed along and poured Su Wanqing a drink. Out with the old, in with the new. President Su. This is a good opportunity to purge a bunch of stubborn old fogies. Next year I'll recruit some people from big factories. They're cheap and obedient. Zhao Feng did not respond. Looking at the expressions on those two men's faces, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He had been in this industry for 20 years and knew all too well what those 17 people meant. They were the entire brains of the Yunding project, the core assets for due diligence during the company's IPO next year, and a technological barrier that no competitor could breach. They left, and the company was just an empty shell. President Su, Zhao Feng added, forcing himself to speak. They not only left, they also took. What did you take away? Su Wanqing interrupted impatiently. Did you take away Zhou Huai's shabby air? Zhao Feng's throat bobbed. Just then, the heavy, carved wooden door of the banquet hall was slowly pushed open from the outside. Checkpoint. Zhou Huai stood at the door. Behind him stood a dense crowd of 17 people. Li Lan, Lao Zheng, and Xiao Feng were all there. He held a blue-covered document in his hand, the cover facing up, with a line of black text that looked as cold as a knife under the crystal chandelier. Invention Patent Certificate. Core algorithm of Yunding Intelligent Scheduling System. Patentee, Zhou Huai. He stepped in, his leather shoes crunching softly on the colorful ribbons on the ground. He stopped 2 steps in front of Su Wanqing, gently placed the patent certificate on the messy dining table, and said in a low voice, President Su, who are you calling a meal ticket? Su Wanqing's smile froze on her face. Cheng Yu craned his neck to take a look, and his pupils suddenly contracted. Su Wanqing's gaze fell on the blue document. She froze for a second before letting out a sneer. Zhou Huai, are you trying to scare me with some worthless certificate? The company is yours. The patents belong to the company. You're playing these tricks on me. How childish. She reached for the certificate, but Zhou Huai flipped to the inside page first, his fingertip pointing to the patentee column. Look carefully. The patent registered with the patent office is in my personal name. 5 years ago, I licensed it to the company under a regular license. I didn't sell ownership. Cheng Yu forced a cold laugh from the side. So what? The company can continue to use it, and you can't win a legal battle. 4. Zhou Huai pulled another piece of paper from his suit pocket and slapped it next to the certificate. The patent license termination notice was delivered to the company's board of directors this afternoon. Starting from midnight tomorrow, no company product may use the Cloud Ding core algorithm. This includes the second phase of the project you are currently delivering to the Municipal Investment Group. Zhao Feng's expression changed. He was the vice president and knew what this meant. The municipal investment company's order, with a contract value of 200 million yuan, was due for delivery next spring. If the core algorithm was taken down, the entire system would be a pile of scrap metal. Not only would the penalty for breach of contract be astronomical, but the company's due diligence for its IPO would be rejected outright. Su Wanqing's finger was still suspended in midair, and her fingertip visibly trembled. You're talking nonsense. She grabbed the notice, her voice rising and then catching in her throat. Where's the legal department? Call the general counsel. General counsel? Lilan stepped out from behind Zhou Huai, holding a tablet computer. President Su. The general counsel just signed his resignation letter and should be downstairs now. But before he left, he asked me to give this to you. On the screen is the real-time query page of the State Intellectual Property Office's official website. The patent number, patent name, and legal status are all clearly stated. Patentee, Zhou Huai. License status, terminated. The color drained from Su Wanqing's face inch by inch. She grabbed her phone and dialed the CTO. The call rang 5 times before being answered. A weary voice came through. President Su. I just saw the notification. Cloud Ding's core module is indeed registered under President Zhou's name. When he joined the company, the agreement stated it was a work-related invention. But later he split the patent and registered the core algorithm under his personal name. All these years, the company has been using his license. Shut up. Su Wanqing's voice was weak. She hung up the phone and then called the board secretary, the securities firm, and the law firm that was providing IPO guidance. With each phone call she made, her shoulders slumped an inch. After making the 3rd call, her hands finally began to tremble, not from anger, but from realizing she had stepped into an empty space and was falling. Qingyu, still trying to hold on, said, President Su, don't panic. We can take legal action and sue him for infringement. Your motherfucker's rights. Su Wanqing suddenly screamed, sweeping her wine glass to the ground where it shattered into sharp shards. The things the company has used for 5 years belong to him personally. The core intellectual property rights listed in the IPO documents are all his. Do you even understand what that means? Qingyu's smile froze completely on his face. Zhou Huai looked at him, then at Su Wanqing, his tone as calm as if he were stating the weather. It means you took my things in exchange for a higher IPO valuation. Now, I'm not exchanging them. He turned to Zhao Feng and said, Mr. Zhao, could you please inform everyone that the project matchmaking meeting of the Municipal Investment and Development Group will be moved to Huailan Technology at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Huailan Technology? Zhao Feng was taken aback. My new company, Zhou Huai straightened his suit collar, was registered a week ago. 17 core technical staff. All employees hold shares. Director Zhao from the Municipal Investment and Financing Center has already signed the letter of intent. They only recognized the original Yunding team, not the company name. Su Wanqing's lips trembled. She wanted to say something, but no sound came out. She suddenly remembered Zhou Huai's words from 3 days ago. I settled the debt 7 years ago. It wasn't just something said in anger. That was a preview. The deathly silence in the banquet hall was broken by a cell phone ringing. It was Qingyu's phone. He glanced down at it, his face instantly turning ashen. It was a call from the Economic Crime Investigation Division. Zhou Huai said calmly, Go ahead and take it. I've already compiled the foreign exchange purchase records, fake contracts, and invoice copies of how the 73 million yuan went from the company account to the cultural communication company you control. I personally handed over the report materials this afternoon. Qingyu's hand went limp, and the phone fell onto the carpet. The screen still lit, the ringtone blaring shrilly. You're slandering me. Qingyu stumbled backward, bumping into the dining table. He awkwardly grabbed the edge for support. That was a bonus approved by President Su. It's legitimate income. Legal? Lilan sneered, pulling a stack of A4 papers from her file folder. Director Chung, your Columbia University diploma has no record in the Ministry of Education's Overseas Study Service Center. The previous job you submitted when you joined the company, Morgan Stanley Asia Pacific, doesn't even exist. According to labor law, your current employment contract is fraudulent and invalid from the beginning. And this, Old Zheng stepped forward and slammed a stack of invoices on the table. The Porsche you bought last month. The invoice is in Su's Technologies name, and it's registered under the company account. The car is in your name, and the company paid the taxes. This is called embezzlement, and it was approved by General Manager Su. Cheng Yu's face was ashen, his shoulders slumped, and he looked as if his bones had been removed. Su Wanqing was still trying to maintain the last shred of dignity. She looked at Zhao Feng, her voice trembling. Zhao Feng, call security and get them out of here. Zhao Feng didn't move. He paused for 2 seconds, then took a document from his briefcase and placed it next to the patent certificate. President Su, this is my resignation letter. Zhao Feng's voice was steady. In addition, as a senior executive of the company, I have an obligation to explain to you that, according to Article 14 of the company's Articles of Association, the termination of the authorization of major technical assets constitutes a major operational risk for the company and requires an extraordinary board meeting. I have already notified Chairman Wang Chongshan, and he will arrive in 10 minutes. My dad. Su Wanqing's pupils contracted sharply. Isn't he abroad? Uncle Wang landed at 8 o'clock tonight. Zhou Huai said, I want to pick him up personally. As soon as he finished speaking, the side door of the banquet hall opened. Wang Chongshan, dressed in a dark gray Zhongshan suit, walked in, followed by 2 secretaries in black suits. He was 73 years old, with gray hair, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. He didn't even glance at Su Wanqing, but walked straight up to Zhou Huai and sighed. Little Zhou, the Su family has let you down. Zhou Huai bowed slightly. Uncle Wang, let's handle this as official business. Wang Chongshan turned around and looked at Su Wanqing. There was no warmth in his eyes when he looked at his daughter, only the indifference of a businessman looking at a loss-making project. Wanqing, starting tomorrow, you are suspended from your duties. The president's office accounts are frozen, and all fund transfers are suspended. He then looked at Cheng Yu. Sir, the economic crime investigation team should be downstairs. Cooperate with the investigation. And Su's technology will pursue the whereabouts of that 73 million yuan according to the law. Cheng Yu's legs went weak, and he had to hold on to the back of the chair to keep from kneeling. He opened his mouth, wanting to beg for mercy, but found that Su Wanqing was in dire straits herself, and no one was paying attention to him. Su Wanqing finally broke down. It wasn't crying. It was a breakdown even more unsightly than crying. She took 2 steps forward and grabbed Wang Chongshan's arm. Dad, you're going to abandon me for him? I'm your daughter. Zhou Huai is just an outsider. Outsider? Wang Chongshan shook off her hand, pointing to the patent certificates on the table. The company will go public next year, and its valuation will depend on Yunding. Yunding belongs to him. The clients recognize him, and 17 senior executives follow him. Tell me, who is the outsider? He paused, then added insult to injury. You gave 73 million of his team's money to a con man to buy him a Porsche. Su Wanqing, do you think I'm too old to control you anymore? The word liar was like 2 hammers, smashing Cheng Yu's last bit of energy to pieces. He slumped into his chair, his fingernails unconsciously scraping against the tabletop, making a teeth-grinding squeak sound. Wang Chongshan's secretary began to take stock of the documents in the banquet hall. This is not a family mediation. This is a board takeover. Su Wanqing stood amidst the shattered glass, her high heels leaving messy marks in a puddle of red wine. She was still trying to comprehend what was happening before her eyes. Just an hour ago, she was the high and mighty CEO Su. And now, her father, in front of the husband she despised the most, announced her suspension from her job. Zhou Huai. She turned around, her voice hoarse. We've been married for 7 years. And this is how you treat me? Zhou Huai looked at her, his eyes devoid of hatred or even emotion, only displaying a completely detached calmness. Su Wanqing, in these 7 years, I've shielded you from technological crises, dealt with customer complaints, and pulled your father's company back from the brink of bankruptcy. He said each word slowly and deliberately. But remember, I treated you as my wife, not as my CEO. He took a document out of his pocket and placed it on the table. Divorce agreement. The 73 million you transferred is an improper disposal of marital property, and I will pursue it. In addition, 3 months ago, you mortgaged our marital home in the west of the city to a third party without my consent, and the signature was a forged authorization document. I completed the handwriting analysis last week. Su Wanqing's back straightened instantly. She had secretly sabotaged that wedding apartment behind Zhou Huai's back. She had thought that even if Zhou Huai knew, he would keep quiet. After all, he had endured it for 7 years. You already. I'm no longer an employee of the Su family, Zhou Huai said. From the moment you let Xiao Cheng sit at the head table. I've just been Zhou Huai. At this moment, Wang Chongshan's secretary handed him a tablet. Wang Chongshan glanced at it, his expression darkening further. Wanqing, the municipal investment group just sent a letter saying that if the Yunding original team is not present at tomorrow's meeting, they will initiate a breach of contract claim. The penalty is 46 million. Su Wanqing's fingertips began to tremble. This time, she truly couldn't control herself. She looked at Cheng Yu, the man who had been beaming with pride just half an hour ago, now being let out through a side door by 2 economic crime investigators. His Porsche keys slipped from his pocket and fell onto the carpet. He didn't even dare to pick them up. Mr. Su, the economic crime investigators said politely, please cooperate with the investigation. Mr. Chung, also, as the approver of these funds, you may need to explain the situation to us. Su Wanqing's legs went weak, and she grabbed the edge of the table for support. She didn't kneel down, but everyone could see that her knees were trembling. Zhao Feng then walked to Zhou Huai's side and bowed slightly. President Zhou, the registered address of Huailon Technology has been confirmed. Director Zhao from the Municipal Investment and Financing Bureau asked what materials you need to bring for the signing ceremony tomorrow. Just bring people along, Zhou Huai said. He turned to the 17 executives who had followed him, his gaze sweeping over each face. Gentlemen, thank you for your hard work tonight. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Huailon Technology will reopen. As for the year-end bonuses, I will personally distribute them at the new company. Old Zheng grinned. Xiao Feng's eyes reddened, and Li Lan nodded heavily. No one looked at Su Wanqing again. Wang Chongshan walked up to Zhou Huai and handed him a business card. Little Zhou, Su's technology can go bankrupt, but the Yunding project cannot die. Name your price. Patent licensing. Customer resources. I'll buy it. Zhou Huai took the business card but didn't immediately agree. He only said, Uncle Wang, let the lawyer discuss the price tomorrow. But there's one thing. Su's technology can survive, but the management team must be replaced. Change it, Wang Chongshan said without hesitation. Su Wanqing suddenly looked up. Dad, you did all this for him. I'm only doing this for the company. Wang Chongshan looked at her coldly. Go back to the old house tomorrow and reflect on your actions. You have no right to touch the mess the company is in. This statement is tantamount to a death sentence for her business. She didn't lose because of a marital argument. She lost to the fire she herself started, while her husband had long since replaced the fire extinguisher with gasoline. A week later, Su's Technology held an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. Su Wanqing did not attend. She was being held under house arrest by Wang Chongshan in his old house in the suburbs. Her cell phone was confiscated, and the security guards outside only recognized Wang's note. Cheng Yu's fate came even faster. Investigations revealed that the 73 million yuan had been laundered through a cultural communication company, with 41 million yuan ultimately ending up in his personal account, used for purchasing cars, houses, and overseas spending. He was criminally detained on suspicion of embezzlement and contract fraud. The Porsche and the apartment he had just made a down payment on were all frozen. Zhou Huai, along with 17 senior executives, signed 3 documents in the office of Huailon Technology. The first agreement is a formal cooperation agreement with the Municipal Investment and Development Company for the second phase of the Yunding project, amounting to 200 million yuan, with the core algorithm permanently licensed to the project company. The second agreement was a technology repurchase and settlement agreement reached with Su's Technology, represented by Wang Chongshan. Su's Technology paid a high price to repurchase the patents in exchange for the right to continue operating the existing version of the Yunding system. But Zhou Huai was no longer an employee, but the exclusive technology supplier. The third is Huailon Technology's employee stock ownership plan. Each of the 17 core executives received actual stock options. On the day of the signing, Li Lan asked Zhou Huai, President Zhou, I heard that Su's Technology has a new president, Wang Chongshan, who was transferred from the group headquarters. Su Wanqing is completely out of the picture. Zhou Huai held the pen and signed his name at the end of the contract. His strokes crisp and decisive. Her scheme was set up 3 years ago, but I didn't dismantle it. Do you hate her? Zhou Huai put down his pen and looked out the window. Huilon Technology's office was on the 18th floor, offering a wide view, including the glass curtain wall of Sue's technology building in the distance. I don't hate her, he said. I just don't wipe the table for her anymore. That afternoon, Zhou Huai received a sum of money in his private account. It was Wang Chongshan calling to announce the first payment for the patent buyback. The figures were staggering, enough to make any ordinary person dizzy. But Zhou Huai only glanced at it before putting the phone aside. This money wasn't one. It was Su Wanqing and Cheng Yu who personally squeezed out the interest, penny by penny, from his patients. Meanwhile, the personnel upheaval within Su's technology continues. Those middle managers who had previously flattered Cheng Yu were found to have various problems during the audit, falsifying travel expenses, receiving salaries without working, and improperly claiming expenses. After Zhao Feng was promoted to CEO, his first action was to dismiss these people. More than 60% of the entire management team was replaced. Several former colleagues messaged Zhou Huai on WeChat, expressing their desire to switch jobs and join Huilon Technology. Zhou Huai instructed Li Lan to reply uniformly. Technical positions are open for open recruitment. Candidates will be evaluated based on their resumes and interviews. There are no personal grudges, only rules. Rules and regulations are precisely what Su Wanqing despises the most. On the day before the Lunar New Year, Zhou Huai was tidying up the last batch of documents in his office. Huilon Technology is now operating smoothly, with its 17 employees each fulfilling their responsibilities. The municipal investment project has completed its first stage acceptance ahead of schedule. Wang Chongshan made another final payment, noting happy cooperation in the remarks. Li Lan knocked on the door and came in, handing him a cup of coffee. Mr. Zhou, the front desk just received a package, but there's no sender's name on it. Zhou Huai opened it, and inside was a key. The key to the marital home in the west of the city. Attached was a note in Su Wanqing's handwriting, the ink messy. One could imagine how flustered she must have been to write it. The house has been released from mortgage. Here you go. For the sake of our 7 years together, could you perhaps ask the Economic Crime Investigation Department to be lenient? Zhou Huai put the keys on the table, picked up his phone, and sent a message to Attorney Yang. Cheng Yu's case will proceed according to legal procedures. No additional civil leniency will be granted, and no letters of appeal will be issued. After sending it, he folded the note in half and threw it into the shredder. The machine hummed, turning the paper strips into thin strips, and then into crumbs. Li Lan stood to the side and said softly, I heard that Su Wanqing is selling her shares to try and cover the losses left by Cheng Yu. But no one dares to take them on, afraid of getting into trouble. That's her business, Zhou Huai said. He picked up his coffee and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, the city lights twinkled, and the traffic flowed like a golden river. My phone vibrated again. It was a bank notification that money had been deposited into my account. The final payment from Wang Chongshan was clearly stated, 73 million. Looking at the number, Zhou Huai suddenly recalled that night at the annual meeting when Su Wanqing leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine glass, and said lightly, I gave all of my husband's team's 73 million yuan year-end bonus to Xiao Cheng. At that time, she thought that 73 million yuan could buy the loyalty of a male assistant and the submission of a husband. What she didn't know was that the money actually bought her reputation in the business world for the rest of her life. The 7-year marriage she had personally torn apart, and the CEO's office she could never return to. Zhou Huai turned off his phone screen. In the office, only the steam from the coffee rose slowly in the cool air. Those 73 million have finally returned to where they belonged. But some people will never come back. Welcome to the second story. It's signed. I pushed the divorce papers over, and the pen on the coffee table made a crisp sound. Lin Wanqing had just placed the orange Hermes box in the entryway, still clutching her car keys. She paused, her gaze shifting from the black and white lettering on the coffee table to my face. Her expression changed from the feigned gentleness she'd shown when she entered to a look of offended astonishment. What did you say? Divorce. I leaned back on the sofa, pointing to the agreement. The property division was very clear. The company was mine. The house was yours. And each of us would get one car. If you felt it wasn't reasonable, you could have a lawyer revise it. Her face visibly darkened. Just 3 seconds ago, she was smiling as she changed her shoes at the door. saying to her husband, "Honey, I brought you a gift today." Now, that smile has vanished completely, as if someone slapped off her mask. "Lu Chun, what's wrong with you?" I didn't answer, but picked up my teacup and took a sip. Lin Wanqing strode over, grabbed the agreement, glanced at it, and then tore it up. The sound of paper tearing was particularly jarring in the living room. "I won't sign." She threw the shredded paper on the ground, her voice shrill. "What's wrong with you today? I finally got home early, and this is what you show me?" I looked at her without saying anything. This woman, my wife, we've been married for 6 years, and in the last 3 months, she's only come home a handful of times. Each time she comes back, she either grabs something or changes clothes, and leaves in less than half an hour. I asked her if she was busy at work, and she said yes. I asked her if she needed any help, and she said no. I thought she was genuinely busy. Until last Wednesday, I saw her get out of a black Maybach in the B3 level of the underground parking garage. I hadn't seen the man in the driver's seat before. He was in his early 40s, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a sharp suit. He reached out and touched Lin Wanqing's face. She didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled and rubbed her face against his. I stood in the fire escape for 5 minutes, waiting for the elevator to leave before coming out. Later, I checked the man's license plate. I met Chen Sudong, CEO of Dongshin Capital, at an industry summit last year. He even came over to hand me his business card, saying he had long admired Mr. Liu and was very polite. It turns out the person I've been admiring for so long is my wife. "Lu Chun, what's wrong with you?" Lin Wanqing stood in front of me, arms crossed, chin held high. "I've been a bit busy lately, but is it really necessary? You're bringing up divorce over this? What are you busy with? As for company matters, didn't I tell you? We're currently in talks about a big project." "What project?" She frowned, clearly not expecting me to ask further. Before, when she said she was busy, I never pressed her for details. "An acquisition deal." She paused. "The other party was a large corporation. If the deal went through, the company's valuation would triple. Which company to acquire?" "Why are you asking so many questions?" Lin Wanqing said impatiently. "It's not like I'm not going home. I've just been a little busy these past few months. Can't you be a little understanding?" I stood up, walked to the entryway, and opened the orange Hermes box. Inside was a bag, very beautiful, elephant gray, with gold hardware, worth over 300.000 yuan. "Is this compensation?" I asked. Lin Wanqing's expression softened slightly, and her tone became gentler. "I know I've been neglecting you lately, so I bought you a gift. Your briefcase is worn out. Get a new one." "Did Chen Sudong choose this for you?" The air suddenly became quiet. Lin Wanqing's face turned pale instantly. What do you mean?" "What I mean is, when I put the bag back in the box, the sound was very flat. When you were with Chen Sudong, he helped you pick out gifts to coax me. But did you ever think that I don't actually carry a briefcase?" Her lips were trembling. "Lu Chun, let me explain." "No need." I went to the study, took another copy of the divorce agreement from the drawer, and put it back on the coffee table. "It's okay that you tore up that copy. I printed 10 more. Lin Wanqing stood there, her fingers gripping the hem of her clothes, her knuckles turning white. "Are you following me? I don't have that kind of time. It's your bad luck that the security camera on level B3 of the parking lot was pointing directly at the front of that Maybach. The building's security guard knows you. Took a screenshot and sent it to me, asking if I wanted him to reserve a parking space for you." She closed her eyes. When I opened my eyes again, they were red, but I didn't shed any tears. "Lu Chun, Chen Sudong and I are not what you think." "What is it?" He was pursuing me, but I didn't say yes." Lin Wanqing's voice began to tremble. "He was helping me negotiate projects. Really. He was very interested in our company's acquisition." "Acquire my company?" She choked. I smiled and said, "Lin Wanqing, I can tolerate you sleeping with him. But if you join forces with outsiders to swallow up what I've built up, do you think I'll still sit here and talk to you nicely? I didn't intend to take over your company." Lin Wanqing's voice rose, and tears finally fell from her eyes. She looked beautiful when she cried, with red eyes and a red nose. Just like when we were walking on the playground in college and she cried because I made her angry. But that was 6 years ago. Dongshin Capital is investing, not acquiring. They provide the capital. We provide the projects. And we'll collaborate to develop new business lines. Equity dilution is a normal financing process. "Lu Chun, you're in business. You understand this better than I do." Why should normal financing go through you? I asked. I am the legal representative of the company and the major shareholder. Shouldn't you come directly to me to discuss financing? Because, because I wanted to give you a surprise. Surprise? Yes. Lin Wanqing wiped away her tears, her voice becoming more composed. Haven't you been looking for Series B funding lately? You met with over a dozen investment firms last year, but didn't succeed. Dongxing's terms are very good, and their valuation is high. I want to finalize the framework first, and then discuss it with you. I looked at her and suddenly found it a little funny. Lin Wanqing, do you know what the biggest problem with what you just said was? She frowned. You said we'd come up with a project. I stood up, walked over to her, and told her about the company I'd built from scratch all by myself. The startup capital came from selling my house back home. For the first 3 years, I worked day and night, writing code, visiting clients, and sleeping in the office. When did you join? Lin Wanqing took a step back. Last year. She said it herself. Yes, last year. I nodded. I brought you in as vice president because you're my wife, not because of your abilities. In the past year, besides changing the office decor twice, what substantial things have you accomplished? Her face turned completely cold. Lu Chun, you've gone too far. I went too far? I couldn't help but laugh. When you and Chen Sudong were touching each other's faces in the Maybach, didn't you think you went too far? I told him he was pursuing me, but I didn't agree. But you didn't refuse. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I turned and walked to the bedroom, took a file folder from the top of the wardrobe, and threw it on the sofa. See for yourself. Lin Wanqing hesitated for a moment, then bent down and opened the file bag. Inside was a stack of photos. It wasn't taken secretly. Chen Sudong posted it on his WeChat Moments, and a mutual friend screenshotted it and sent it to me. In the photo, Chen Sudong and Lin Wanqing are at a golf course. Lin Wanqing is wearing a white dress and a straw hat, her eyes crinkling with laughter. Chen Sudong stands behind her, his hand on her shoulder. The caption reads, "Have a great weekend." The next picture shows a private room in a Japanese restaurant, where two people are sitting facing each other, with sake and sashimi on the table. Lin Wanqing's hand is resting on the back of Chen Sudong's hand, at a very intimate angle. In the next picture, on a beach in Sanya, Chen Sudong has his arm around Lin Wanqing's waist, and the two are kissing in the sunset. This picture has no caption, only a heart emoji. Lin Wanqing's hands began to tremble. These are not what you think. And what about this one? I leaned against the wall, my voice very soft. The Sanya trip. You said you were going on a business trip, leaving on Thursday and returning on Sunday. I booked your plane ticket, but you said you didn't need it. That Chen Sudong had a business jet available, which would be more convenient. I didn't know him at the time. That's enough. I interrupted her, not loudly, but she immediately shut up. I don't care if your feelings for him are genuine or not, and I don't care if you promised him anything. I pointed to the divorce agreement on the coffee table. Sign it. Move out of my house, and you can do whatever you want with him. Lin Wanqing stood there, stunned, tears streaming down her face. After a dozen seconds, she suddenly took a deep breath, wiped away her tears, picked up the agreement, and read it carefully. Do you want the company? The company is mine. Are you sure? I'm sure. She suddenly sneered. Lu Chun, do you think the company can function without you? Half of those customers, those channels, and those core technologies are in my hands. I looked at her and suddenly understood something. So you insisted on coming to the company last year not to help me, but to delegate power? I'm your wife. So half of the company's assets belong to me. Lin Wanqing's tone changed. It was no longer weak or aggrieved, but cold and hard. You can have a divorce, but the company will be split in half. If you can't come up with the money, sell it to me. Should I sell it to you? Or to Chen Sudong? Is there a difference? I took a deep breath and didn't answer. She picked up her bag, turned, and walked towards the door, pausing briefly at the entrance. Lu Chun, I'm giving you 3 days to think it over. Either you live a normal life together and pretend this never happened, or you get a divorce and I get half the company. Think it through. The door closed. The living room quieted down, with only the hum of the air conditioner remaining. I stood there for a while, then went out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette. The lights in the building across the street were on. The city had already fallen asleep. My phone vibrated. A message from the assistant, Mr. Liu. Dongxing Capital sent a due diligence checklist to the finance department this afternoon. requesting access to all of the company's financial data and client contracts for the past 3 years. It was approved by General Manager Lin. I didn't reply. I stubbed out my cigarette on the railing. It seems she has already taken action. The next morning, when I arrived at the company, the receptionist gave me a strange look. "Good morning, Mr. Liu." "Morning." I swiped my card to enter the office area. As I walked past, several department managers lowered their heads and pretended to be busy when they saw me. No one greeted me as usual. When I arrived at the office, my assistant, Xiao Zhou, brought in coffee and closed the door. "Mr. Liu, something's happened." "Explain." Ms. Liu from the finance department worked overtime until 11 p.m. last night, packaging and sending scanned copies of all the clients' contracts to Dongshin Capital. Manager Wang from the purchasing department also cooperated, sending over supplier quotations and cooperation terms. I took a sip of coffee and didn't say anything. "And another thing," Xiao Zhou said in a low voice. "General Manager Lin came early this morning and stayed in your office for 10 minutes before leaving. I came in and took a look. The lock on your drawer had been pried open. I put down my coffee cup, walked to my desk, and opened a drawer. The lock cylinder had indeed been pried open, and the company seal and legal representative seal in the drawer had been moved. Their positions were different from where I had put them yesterday. I took out my phone and flipped to yesterday's photo. I have a habit of taking a picture of my desk every day before leaving get off work to remember where things are. Upon comparison, the official seal was found to be shifted by 5 centimeters, and the dust cover on the legal representative seal had been removed and not put back on. What did she cover up?" Xiao Zhou shook his head. "I don't know. I checked the official seal registration form. There is no record." I nodded and locked the drawer. "Mr. Liu, should we call the police?" "Need not." "But," I said no. Xiao Zhou opened his mouth, but didn't say anything more, and left. I sat in the chair, looking out the window. The company's office is on the 15th floor of Building C in the Science Park, with a great view overlooking the entire park. 6 years ago, this place was still a wasteland. I rented half a floor of that dilapidated building across the street, and with 3 people and 3 computers, we started our business. The company now has more than 80 employees, annual revenue of over 100 million yuan, and customers all over the country. Lin Wanqing said she wanted to come and help last year, and I thought she was just tired of staying at home and wanted to find something to do. I made her a vice president, gave her a private office, and offered her a monthly salary of 50,000 yuan. The first thing she did after she arrived was to renovate the office space, spending 800,000 yuan to completely overhaul it. I didn't say anything. The company has money anyway. The second thing was hiring. She brought in her college classmates, former colleagues, and even her mother's distant relatives. The finance, purchasing, and administration positions were all filled by her people. I still didn't say anything, feeling that there was no need for such clear distinctions among family members. The third thing was meeting with investors. She started traveling frequently, meeting with various investors, and each time she came back, she would tell me that the talks went well. I thought she was helping the company find funding. In retrospect, she was trying to find a way out for herself. My phone vibrated again. It was my lawyer calling. "Mr. Liu, I've reviewed the divorce agreement you sent last night. Several clauses need adjustment. Also, I need to remind you that if the other party can prove the company is marital property, you won't be able to obtain all the shares. She cheated on her husband. Is there any evidence? There are photos, screenshots from WeChat moments, and parking lot surveillance footage. These can only prove an ambiguous relationship. To prove an extramarital affair, more direct evidence is needed, such as hotel records, chat logs, or witness testimonies." I remained silent for a few seconds. What if I could get it? You can argue that she committed a major offense and have an advantage in the division of assets. However, removing her from the company is still very difficult. She is a registered shareholder holding 30% of the shares. That 30% was what I transferred to her last year. She said she wanted to have a sense of presence in the company, so I completed the formalities without hesitation. "Oh, okay, I understand." After hanging up the phone, I turned on my computer and logged into the company's server backend. What Lin Wanqing didn't know was that I personally built the entire company's technical architecture, and all permissions, logs, and operation records were under my monitoring. I retrieved the document transfer records from the finance department. At 10:08 p.m. last night, Sister Lou's computer sent 27 compressed files to an external IP address, with a total size of 4.3 gigabytes. The IP address belongs to the office building of Dongshin Capital. I checked the purchasing department's records again. The same IP address started uploading at 4 p.m., sending supplier quotations, purchase contracts, and cost accounting sheets a total of 6 times. I took a screenshot to save the evidence. Then I opened my email and sent a message to the company's legal counsel with only 2 words: prepare. Lin Wanqing came to the company at noon. She was wearing a beige suit jacket. Her hair was up, and she had on exquisite makeup, looking completely different from how she had cried and torn up the agreement last night. She didn't come to my office. Instead, she went straight into the conference room. 10 minutes later, Xiaozhou knocked on the door again and came in, looking very unhappy. Mr. Liu and Mr. Lin are having a meeting in the conference room. They have invited representatives from several suppliers, as well as Mr. Chun from Dongshin Capital. Oh, she was discussing the company's acquisition. I stood up, walked to the door of the conference room, and looked inside through the gaps in the blinds. A dozen or so people sat on either side of the long table, including representatives of suppliers, several department managers from the company, and Chen Sudong. He sat next to Lin Wanqing, wearing a dark blue suit, his hair neatly combed, and was looking at the documents on the table. Lin Wanqing was speaking loudly, deliberately making sure that people outside could hear her. Dongshin Capital valued the company at 800 million yuan and acquired 60% of its equity. After the transaction, the company will become a subsidiary of Dongshin, and all employees' compensation will only increase, not decrease, while the entire management team will remain in their positions. A murmur of discussion broke out in the conference room. I know everyone has concerns about the company's development. Lin Wanqing glanced at the managers present. Although last year's revenue exceeded 100 million, the net profit was only 12%, far below the industry average. While the company's technology is excellent, its market channels are too weak. We can't break into the market on our own. Partnering with Dongshin is the only way out. No one spoke. Several managers kept their heads down, not daring to look in my direction or at Lin Wanqing. Chen Sudong spoke up, his voice gentle. Don't worry, everyone. Dongshin isn't here to reap the benefits. We're optimistic about this company's technical team and product potential, and we're willing to invest long-term. General Manager Lin and I have also communicated many times. We share the same plans for the future. He specifically emphasized Mr. Lin and me. I pushed the door open and went in. There was a moment of silence in the conference room as everyone turned their attention to us. Lin Wanqing's expression changed slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. Lu Chun, I'm in a meeting. We can talk about it after I'm done. No need to wait. I walked to the head of the long table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. Since we're discussing company matters, shouldn't I, as the legal representative, be present? Chen Sudong glanced at me and nodded slightly. President Liu, it's been a long time. Mr. Chun, the last time we met was at the annual meeting a year ago. You came over to toast us and said you appreciated our products. I still admire it now. He smiled, which is why he wanted to collaborate. Cooperation? I laughed too. You want to buy my company. Is that what you call cooperation? Acquisition is a form of cooperation. Chen Sudong's tone was calm and unhurried. Don't worry, Mr. Liu. The price is negotiable. 800 million is just a preliminary offer. If you think it's too low, we can raise it further. What about 1 billion? Chen Sudong's smile faltered for a moment. Lin Wanqing frowned. Lu Chun, stop messing around. I'm not making a scene. I'm looking at Chen Sudong. Offering 1 billion yuan for 60% of the shares. Are you buying it or not? Chen Sudong pushed up his glasses, a smile still playing on his lips. But his eyes changed. Was President Liu joking? Do I look like I'm joking? A valuation of 1 billion represents a premium of over 300%. Mr. Liu, being a tech professional, should know that this figure is unreasonable. Then why did you still buy it? I asked. Is 800 million reasonable? Our company's net profit last year was only 12 million. An 800 million valuation means a P/E ratio exceeding 60. Mr. Chun, as an investor, should know this is unreasonable, right? Chen Sudong's smile froze. Lin Wanqing suddenly stood up. Lu Chun, What exactly do you want to do? I want to know why you insist on selling my company. I said it was for development. For development. Or to give money to your lover. I turned to look at Lin Wanqing. My voice not loud, but every word was clear. Dongxing Capital invested 800 million. How much of that was a kickback you got? The meeting room fell completely silent. Everyone stopped breathing. Lin Wanqing's face was as white as paper. What nonsense are you talking about? Am I talking nonsense? I took out my phone, opened an audio file, and pressed play. Chen Sudong's voice rang out in the conference room. It was an excerpt from a recorded phone call. Mr. Lin, don't worry. Once the acquisition is complete, your shares will be repurchased at twice the price, with the difference paid as consulting fees. Conservatively estimated, you personally will receive 150 million. The recording is very short, only a dozen seconds long, but it is packed with information. After the video finished playing, the conference room fell silent. Lin Wanqing was trembling all over, her lips quivering and unable to speak. Chen Sudong reacted quickly. He stood up, his expression unchanged. President Liu, this recording is fake. I can sue you for defamation. A fake? I laughed. Then call the police. Call 110 right now. Let the police come and examine it to see if it's really a fake. Chen Sudong did not move. Don't dare? I looked him in the eye. Mr. Chen, do you know where this recording came from? It came from your assistant's phone. His phone was lost last week. Remember? A friend of mine happened to find it. Chen Sudong's expression finally changed. The meeting room door was pushed open. Legal counsel Lao Zhou walked in, carrying a file folder. He glanced at me, and I nodded. Old Zhou placed the file bag on the table, opened it, took out a stack of documents, and laid them out one by one. The first document is the company's internal file transfer log, clearly showing the time, IP address, and file name. The second document was the due diligence checklist that Lin Wanqing had signed and approved, bearing her handwritten signature and the company's official seal. The third document is a notarized certificate of evidence preservation issued by the notary office, proving the authenticity and legality of the aforementioned document transmission records. The fourth document was a lawyer's letter, addressed to Dongxing Capital. Old Zhou cleared his throat, his voice not loud, but every word was clear. According to Article 148 of the company law, company directors and senior managers shall not use their positions to seek business opportunities belonging to the company for themselves or others, nor shall they accept commissions from others in transactions between the company and themselves for their own benefit. Any income obtained by violators shall belong to the company, and they shall bear liability for compensation. He turned to Lin Wanqing. President Lin, as the company's vice president, you have provided the company's core trade secrets to a third party without the board's approval, which constitutes a suspected crime of infringing trade secrets. According to Article 219 of the criminal law, those with serious circumstances shall be sentenced to imprisonment for not less than 3 years, but not more than 7 years, and shall also be fined. Lin Wanqing's eyes reddened. Her lips trembled, and she couldn't utter a single word. Chen Sudong stood up and sneered. Lu Chen, do you think you can scare me with these things? I'm not trying to scare you. I leaned back in my chair, looking at him. I'll submit all of this to the China Securities Regulatory Commission's, CSRC, whistleblower system this afternoon. Isn't Dongxing Capital going public soon? Do you think your IPO will even get approved after the CSRC receives the whistleblower letter? Chen Sudong's smile vanished completely. Are you crazy? I'm not crazy. I stood up, walked up to him, and said, if you want to pursue my wife, that's her prerogative. But if you want to take my company, that's a different matter. I can live without my wife, but I won't give up my company to you. The supplier representatives and department managers in the conference room were getting restless, and some began to whisper among themselves. Lin Wanqing suddenly spoke up, her voice hoarse. Lu Chen, don't make a big fuss. Make a scene? I turned to look at her. You stole my company's seal, pried open my drawers, and sold company secrets to outsiders. And you're telling me not to make a scene? I didn't steal the official seal. I just borrowed it. Borrow? I laughed. When you picked the lock, did you even consider that it was illegal? She couldn't say it. Chen Sudong picked up the documents on the table, glanced at them, and threw them back on the table. President Liu, it's not certain whether this evidence of yours is legally valid. We'll leave first. You should think it over carefully and not push things too far. He turned to leave. Mr. Chun. I called out to him. He stopped, but didn't turn around. I've already returned your assistant's phone to the police. It contained not only this recording, but also all your chat logs with Lin Wanqing and screenshots of you instructing her to steal company secrets. Chen Sudong's body stiffened for a moment. You'll probably get a call from the police when you get home today. I checked my watch. I already filed a police report this morning. On 2 charges, embezzlement of company assets and corporate espionage. Someone in the conference room gasped. Chen Sudong slowly turned around, his face expressionless. Lu Chun, do you know Dongsheng's background? I know. I nodded. You have the funds of a major state-owned bank behind you, right? But guess what? After that bank receives the whistleblower letter, will it protect you, or will it sever all ties with you? Chen Sudong stared at me for 3 seconds, then turned and left. The door slammed shut behind him. The rest of the people in the conference room dared not move, their eyes darting back and forth between Lin Wanqing and me. Lin Wanqing stood beside the long table, her hands resting on the surface, her nails digging into the wood. Her tears finally fell, but this time they weren't fake, they were real. Lu Chun, you ruined me. I ruined you. I looked at her, my voice calm. You ruined yourself. I just want to help the company. That's enough. I interrupted her, took the divorce agreement out of my pocket, and placed it on the table. If you sign and resign from the company, I can agree not to sue you. As she looked at the agreement, large tears fell onto the paper. Lu Chun, our 6-year marriage. When you cheated on me, did you ever think about our marriage? I told you I didn't cheat. Are those kissing photos and Sonia photoshopped? She shut up. I took one last look at her, then turned and walked out of the meeting room. I heard her crying behind me. It was loud and she sounded very aggrieved, just like when we used to argue on the playground. But this time, I didn't look back. The police arrived at 3 p.m. 2 people in uniform and 1 in plain clothes went directly to the conference room after entering the company. Lin Wanqing is still inside. She has been sitting there without moving since Chen Sudong left. Xiaozhou ran over to me and said, President Liu, the police want to talk to President Lin. Let her go. Ms. Liu from the finance department and Manager Wang from the purchasing department will also be questioned. Cooperate. Xiaozhou hesitated for a moment. President Liu, Sister Liu and Manager Wang are both President Lin's people. They might try to shift the blame onto you. Don't worry. I took a sip of coffee. All the transmission records have IP addresses and timestamps. They can't deny them even if they want to. Xiaozhou nodded and went out. I sat in my office, looking out at the science park. The sun was shining brightly. The sky was blue, and people were walking their dogs, smoking, and making phone calls in the park. Everything seemed normal. No one could have imagined that the 15th floor of this building was experiencing an earthquake. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Mr. Liu, this is Vice President Zhao from Dongsheng Capital. We just learned about Mr. Chen's situation. On behalf of the company, I apologize to you. This matter was Mr. Chen's personal action and has nothing to do with Dongsheng. I listened without saying anything. We have suspended Mr. Chen from all his duties and will conduct an internal investigation regarding the leak of your company's trade secrets. Dongsheng is willing to take full responsibility and is also willing to reach a settlement with you. Reconciliation? Yes. We can compensate your company for its losses. The terms are negotiable. No need. I said, I've already reported it to the police. Let the law handle the rest. I hung up the phone. The second call came in immediately afterward. It was from Lao Song, one of the company's investors. Lu Chun, I've heard about it. What happened? I briefly explained the situation. Old Song remained silent for a long time before finally sighing. What a pity. Lin Wanqing seems quite shrewd. How could she do such a foolish thing? Everyone has their own ambitions. What are your plans next? Will the company still be able to operate normally? Yes. I said the finance and procurement departments need some streamlining. The technology team is intact, and I handle customer relationships, so the impact won't be significant. That's good. Old Song paused for a moment, then added, by the way, don't give in to Dongsheng's offer. They're having a meeting recently, and they're most afraid of something going wrong. If you stick to your guns and refuse to settle, they'll come to you to negotiate. I know. After hanging up the phone, I turned on my computer and started writing emails. The recipient was the China Securities Regulatory Commission's complaint email address, and the attachments contained all the evidence. transmission records, audio recordings, screenshots, notarized documents, and the due diligence checklist signed by Lin Wanqing. I clicked send. The screen displays, the email has been sent. Then I picked up the phone and called a reporter I knew from the financial channel, someone who had interviewed me before. Hey Lou, I have some news. Are you interested? What news? Dongxing Capital is suspected of corporate espionage and stealing our company's core secrets. There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the phone. Then Lao Lu's voice changed. Really? I've sent the evidence to your email. Take a look before you comment. Okay, I'll check it right away. After hanging up the phone, I stood up and walked to the window. The setting sun bathed the entire science park in a beautiful orange-red hue. The door was pushed open. Lin Wanqing stood at the door, with 2 policemen standing behind her. Her makeup was ruined. Her eyes were swollen like peaches, and there were dried bloodstains on her lips from biting them herself. Lu Chun. Her voice was very soft, like a thread about to come undone. I looked at her without saying anything. I will sign, she said. The divorce agreement. You tell me to sign it, and I will. I will transfer all the company shares to you, without asking for a single penny. I only ask one thing of you. Explain. Don't sue me. I looked into her eyes. Those eyes used to be so beautiful. They looked like crescent moons when they smiled. On the university playground, at the wedding, and on the honeymoon. But now those eyes only hold fear and pleading. Okay, I said, but you have to hand over everything Chen Sudong gave you. What is it? Money, gifts, and any favors you get from him. Lin Wanqing paused for a moment, then slowly nodded. Good. A week later, Lin Wanqing moved out. She called a moving company's truck and had our belongings moved out of our house. Box by box. I stood on the balcony and watched, without going down to help. After moving in, she came upstairs, stood in the living room, and held the key in her hand. Where do I put the keys? Just put it on the table. She put down the keys, stood in the entryway, and looked at me. The living room was much emptier, her photos, her cosmetics, her clothes, all gone, leaving only my belongings. Lu Chun, I want to ask you a question. Ask. When did you find out? Did I find out you were cheating? I leaned against the wall. About 2 months ago. 2 months? Her eyes widened. Then why did you wait until now to tell me? Because I'm waiting. I said, wait until you go too far. Wait until I get enough evidence. Wait until you corner yourself. Lin Wanqing's face twitched. So you've been acting all along? Right. You watched me with Chen Sudong. Watched me make arrangements in the company. Watched me leak secrets. And you didn't say a word. Just waiting for this final move? Right. She closed her eyes briefly, and tears streamed down her face again. Lu Chun, you are really scary. I'm not as scary as you. I'm saying, aren't you scary that you're teaming up with outsiders to swallow up the company I built from scratch? I just wanted to. That's enough. I interrupted her. I don't want to hear you say, I just want any more. What you think isn't important. What you do is. She fell silent, then turned and walked towards the door. She paused at the door but didn't turn around. Lu Chun, I truly loved you. I know, I said, but then you stopped loving me. The door closed. I stood in the empty living room, listening to her footsteps grow fainter and fainter until they finally disappeared into the elevator. Sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating the floor, the walls, and the empty entryway table. On the table was the Hermes orange box, inside which was the bag worth over 300,000 yuan. She forgot to take it. It's also possible that they don't want to take it anymore. I walked over, closed the box, and placed it on the shoe cabinet by the door. I'll have the property management deliver it to her tomorrow. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Lao Lu. The article has been published, and it's trending at number 4. Dongsheng is already panicking. I clicked on the link, and it was quite sensational. Well-known investment institution accused of corporate espionage. Listed company secrets stolen. The comments section has exploded, with tens of thousands of comments, all criticizing Dongxing Capital. I exited the page and opened the company's back-end system. Ms. Liu from the finance department resigned yesterday, and Manager Wang from the purchasing department has been suspended. I asked Xiao Zhou to transfer 2 people from the technical team to temporarily fill in. We can manage for now. I called each of the clients to explain the situation, and most of them expressed their understanding. A major client was planning to terminate the cooperation, but I had a video chat with their CEO for an hour, explaining the technical solutions and future plans. In the end, they said, "Okay, Mr. Liu, I trust you." Trust takes years to build but can be destroyed in an instant. But the reverse is also true. Lin Wanqing destroyed our 6-year marriage in 3 months. And I pulled the company back from the brink of collapse in 1 week. 2 weeks later, Chen Sudong was taken away by the police for investigation. It was on the news, in the footage. He was wearing a dark jacket and being escorted into a police car by 2 plainclothes officers. His face expressionless. Dongxing Capital issued a statement saying that Chen Sudong's personal behavior was unrelated to the company, that the company had dismissed him, and that it would fully cooperate with the investigation. However, the CSRC investigation team still moved into Dongxing's office building. Their IPO has been suspended, and nobody knows when it will resume. Vice President Zhao called me 3 times, his tone becoming increasingly humble each time, from seeking reconciliation to pleading for leniency. I refused them all. It wasn't because I was ruthless, but because I knew that if I had been standing downstairs that day, Chen Sudong wouldn't have let me go. That's how the world works. If you take a step back, others will take 2 steps forward. Lin Wanqing never came to see me again. She handled the divorce proceedings through her lawyer, who never showed up. The property division was as she had previously promised. The company would go entirely to me, while the house and car would go to her. When the lawyer sent me the documents, she included a note in her handwriting. The only sentence on it was, "I picked out that bag myself, not him." I read the note twice, then tore it up and threw it in the trash. Whether she chose it or Chen Sudong chose it, it doesn't matter anymore. The important thing is that the Hermes box is still at the property management's lost and found, and she hasn't come to pick it up yet. Perhaps she knew that some things, once returned, can never be taken back. The company has moved to a new office area, from Building C to Building A, on the 18th floor, with a better view. I completely restructured the finance and purchasing departments, and poached 2 directors from outside, both of whom have excellent reputations in the industry. Not a single member of the technical team left. They knew better than anyone where the company's foundation lay. Xiao Zhou was promoted to administrative supervisor, and his salary doubled. She treated me to a meal at a Sichuan restaurant downstairs from the company, and ordered a whole table of dishes. "Mr. Liu, let me toast you." She raised her glass, her eyes red. "You are the most ruthless person I have ever met." "Ruthless?" "Yes," she said seriously. "You can tolerate her for 2 months, watching her make mistakes step by step without saying a word. Once she's dug her own hole, you'll kick her right in." I smiled but didn't say anything. Xiao Zhou added, "But I think you're right. Some people, you have to let them fall really hard for them to realize they're wrong." I raised my glass and clinked it against hers. It wasn't to make her admit her mistake, but to make myself remember it. What should I remember? Remember not to entrust your trust to unworthy people. 3 months later, I met someone at the coffee shop downstairs from my office. Chen Sudong's former assistant, Xiao Tang. That's the assistant whose phone was found. He was wearing a faded sweatshirt. His hair was messy, and he had dark circles under his eyes. Compared to his well-dressed appearance 3 months ago, he looked like a completely different person. "Mr. Liu, thank you for agreeing to see me. No need to be polite. Please sit down." He sat down, his hands gripping the coffee cup, his knuckles white. Chen Sudong has been sentenced. He said he received 3 years in prison for commercial espionage and bribery. I know. I was also investigated, but because I voluntarily provided evidence, I wasn't prosecuted. That's good. Xiao Tang looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "President Liu, I'm so sorry. Those confidential documents were something I helped President Chen coordinate. I know those things shouldn't have been shared, but I had no choice. President Chen withheld 3 months' salary and threatened to fire me if I didn't cooperate, making it impossible for me to survive in this industry. So I didn't sue you. I took a sip of coffee. You helped me get the crucial evidence. And we're even. Thank you." Xiao Tang lowered her head, her voice slightly choked. "I will never do such a thing again. It's best not to do it. I'll stand up and be a good person. That's better than anything else." Xiao Tang nodded vigorously. I stepped out of the coffee shop, and the sunlight was so bright it hurt my eyes. My phone rang. It was Xiao Zhou calling. "Mr. Liu, Mr. Lin's lawyer just called and said that Mr. Lin wants to meet with you to give you some things in person." "What is it?" They didn't say it was important, but they said it had to be handed over in person. I thought about it and said, "Okay." Let her schedule a time. After hanging up the phone, I stood at the entrance of the coffee shop and lit a cigarette. The sun was shining brightly, and people were coming and going in the science park. Some were laughing, some were crying, some were talking business, and some were arguing. Everything is the same as it was 3 months ago. It seems like everything is different now. 3 days later, I met Lin Wanqing. She arranged to meet at a coffee shop far away, on the other side of the city, more than an hour's drive away. When I arrived, she was already there. She was wearing a black sweater. Her hair was down, and she had no makeup on. 3 months later, she had lost a lot of weight. Her eyes were sunken, and her cheekbones were prominent, making her look 10 years older. There was a file folder on the table. Sit down. Her voice was soft, lacking its former sharpness and assertiveness. I sat down, and the waiter came over and asked what I wanted to drink. I said Americano. Lin Wanqing pushed the file bag over. This is for you. I opened it, and inside was a stack of documents. The first page contains a statement that reads, I, Lin Wanqing, voluntarily declare that the company's shares held by Mr. Lu Chun are his premarital personal property and have nothing to do with me. I hereby waive any right to claim the company's shares. Below is her signature and handprint. The second page is an apology letter, handwritten, 4 pages long. I didn't look at it. I folded it and put it back in the file bag. Why are you only giving it to me now? I asked. Because I was unwilling to accept it before. Lin Wanqing lowered her head, her voice muffled. I thought that as long as I didn't sign, you couldn't do anything to me. Later, I checked the legal provisions and found that I was wrong. She looked up at me, her eyes glistening with tears. But they didn't fall. Lu Chun, I want to ask you a question. You asked, if I hadn't been with Chen Sudong and hadn't tried to take over your company, would we still be getting a divorce? I've thought about it for a long time. Have no idea. Have no idea? Yes. I don't know. I said, but what I do know is that you've already done those things. So this question is meaningless. Lin Wanqing gave a wry smile. You're still the same as before, only stating facts and refusing to make assumptions. Only facts matter. Yes. She stood up, picked up her bag, and said, then I'm leaving. Good. She took 2 steps, then suddenly stopped and turned around. Lu Chun, I've signed the divorce papers. I don't want the company anymore, and I've moved out of the house. But there's one thing I want to take back. What? My photos are on your phone. Her voice trembled slightly. All of them. Delete them. I paused for a moment, then nodded. Good. She didn't say anything more, turned around and left. This time, she didn't cry. I watched her figure disappear through the door, then took out my phone and opened the photo album. There were many photos, more than 6,000, and it took me a long time to find the ones related to her. At her wedding, she wore a white wedding dress and smiled like a flower. During our honeymoon, she was running on the beach and turned back to shout at me to hurry up. On her birthday, she made a wish in front of the cake, the candlelight shining gently on her face. I selected each of the photos one by one and then pressed the delete button. The screen displays 247 photos have been deleted. I put my phone on the table, picked up the Americano, and took a sip. It's cold. A month later, the company completed a new round of financing. It wasn't Dongxing Capital that invested. It was a joint investment by 3 other institutions, with a valuation of 900 million, which is 100 million higher than the 800 million invested by Chen Sudong. At the signing ceremony, Lao Song said to me, Lu Chun, you are now the real boss. I smiled and signed the document. After the press conference, I returned to my office and opened my drawer. Inside was the divorce agreement. Lin Wanqing had already signed it, and so had I. The procedures at the Civil Affairs Bureau have been completed, and legally speaking, I have no relationship with her anymore. I took out the agreement, read it once, and then put it in the shredder. The machine hummed for 5 seconds, and the few pages of paper turned into a pile of crumbs. Xiaozhou pushed open the door and came in, holding a package in his hand. Mr. Liu, someone sent this to you. I took it and opened it. Inside was a postcard with a few lines of text written on the back. The handwriting is familiar. It's Lin Wanqing's. Lu Chun, I'm going abroad and may not come back. Thank you for taking care of me all these years. I'm so sorry. I wish you all the best in the future, and I wish your company continued success. Lin Wanqing. The front of the photo shows a snow-capped mountain with a very blue sky and white snow. I turned the postcard over and looked at it for a long time. Then I put it in the drawer and locked it. The setting sun outside the window was a deep red, and the lights in the science park began to come on, one building after another. The view from the 18th floor is excellent. You can see very far. On the distant mountains, there were lights, twinkling like stars. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Xiaozhou, Mr. Liu. A new client is coming to discuss cooperation tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time? I replied, yes. Then I stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the city lights. This city is so big that it can hold all ambitions and desires. This city is also very small, too small to accommodate a heart that has changed. But it's okay. I will keep moving forward, without stopping for a single step.